Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome back to Pagan Tales. We are in our final installment of Solar Deities for the month of June. Now, the last god I'll be focusing upon is the Celtic god Lugh, and I know it is controversial, to say the least, to incorporate him in with the other solar deities. And some of you listening may have reject this idea in its entirety, which is fine. You are certainly entitled. All I would ask is just hear me out. I may not change your mind at all, but I think it is worthwhile understanding people's counter arguments to your own opinions. So let's get to it. I found three lovely pictures of Lugh. He is one of my favorite gods. I think when it comes to deities that I've worked with, he's on the masculine side, he's second only to Loki. That's how much I've really enjoyed working with him. And he always breezes in. He comes in for me with Lunasa, and he hangs around pretty much the whole month of August. But by the time the calendar gets around to September, I can tell that he's off and away and he's doing other things. But I always enjoy this yearly encounter I have with him. But he's known primarily as Lugh the Longhand, but also known as Lugh Lamphota in Ireland and Lugh Gifts in Wales. Um, He's possibly the sole survivor of triplet babies. I say this is not a universal view because, depending again upon who's telling the story, who's quoting what source, and everything else, sometimes that's a little fuzzy. But we're dealing with Celtic deities, so everything about their origins and who they are and what they are up to, that's always a little bit fuzzy, isn't it? But his father was Cian of the Tuatha De Dan. His mother was Ethne with the Fomorians. She was the daughter of Balor of the Eagle Eye. Now, Balor was a solar deity, but he was specifically a god of the unrelenting sun. So when the sun is at its most brutal, which I'm very much in that season right now in Missouri, and will be for the next couple of months, where the sun just beats down and there's no relief, and what you wouldn't give for a nice rainstorm, only you get a little bit of rain, but it just made the heat wet. It's that kind of feeling from Balor. Also, an interesting thing about Balor is he was responsible for the death of Lugh's brothers. And the reason why he killed them off and why he was very unhappy that he didn't get Lugh as well was because there was a prophecy that he would be killed by his own grandson. And ultimately he was. And that's another reason why I do associate Lugh with being a solar deity, because I see him as having taken his grandfather's place. And not just that, but has taken his place and presenting a kinder, a more productive, more creative aspect of the son than what his father was offering, or grandfather, I should say. And his foster mother was Tialtu, who I think I misspelled her name. My apologies. But Tialtu was the goddess who cleared Ireland for agriculture, and she died of exhaustion. And her death and her funerary games are marked during Lunas. It was established in her honor. So there's a little tidbit for you. So, Lugh, god of what? The non controversial list includes agriculture, storms, the arts, trades, poetry, knowledge, sorcery, diplomacy, warfare, justice, oath keeping, kingcraft, nobility, strategy, being a trickster, protector of his people. If you were going to compare him with any one of the Norse gods, I mean, which one would you really compare him with? Because you see similarities with Thor, with Tyr, with Odin, even with Loki to a certain extent. Lugh is very much a very well-rounded, Swiss Army knife of deities. Now, it is controversial that he's a god of the sun and that he has solar powers. So let's talk about this controversy. The objections do vary, but a lot of them has to do with because the Victorians acknowledged him as a solar deity, and consequently there are people who reject the idea that anyone in the Victoria era was ever correct about anything. Pardon me, need a drink. And I understand the viewpoint up to a certain extent. The Victorians, they did conflate a few things that they probably shouldn't when it comes to ancient mythologies and how they categorize things and everything else. So I understand why it would be the writings of that era at face value. But then again, you shouldn't take anything at face value. So what's so unique about that? And another thing is that people bring up is that Celtic deities are more nuanced than being just the god or goddess of any particular thing, which is absolutely true. And then we also can't be be blind to that. There's a strong preference for amongst many people to see the sun as being a solar goddess, and usually in Celtic circles, it's credited to the goddess Brigid. I would disagree. I think she's more a goddess of fire rather than a goddess of the sun. But we there are legitimate disagreements within our ranks about this. So that kind of gives you an idea about why people might have some objections and some issues with its categorization. But let's talk about Lugh being a master of fire. He certainly had to master fire because of his blacksmithing and other fire-related talents, including his healing talents. And so, he had to master the element of fire itself. And the associations with fire, let's not forget, are enough to make some people insist that the goddess Brigid is a goddess of the sun, but then they'll turn right around and say that Lugh isn't a god of the sun. So that is an inconsistent standard. It is very revealing. And I think part of the issue about why people want to say, no, the sun is feminine, is because I think they see the sun as being more powerful than the moon, which in magical and spiritual connotations, that it really isn't. They are co-equal. But also, I think some of it has to do with, well, it's only Wicca that thinks the sun is male and the moon is female, and I reject Wicca because I'm cool, and so I'm going to reject that thought as well. There is a little bit of that kind of pettiness at play. Now, how people ignore that the Greeks had, Apollo and Helios and Artemis and Selene, it was the sun that was considered masculine and the moon considered feminine. I don't know how we ignore that, but there are issues, and I think a lot of people, sometimes they will look at research that confirms their own personal beliefs, and that's as far as they take it, which it's up to people to make up their own minds, and whether or not anyone agrees with whether or not their basis for making up their mind had much legitimacy. It is still up to them, no matter how that goes. But let's also talk about Lugh's radiance, because it's said that his appearance radiates light like the sun does, and his talents of the deity, as a deity, it relates to illumination of the mind through all of his various knowledge stores and capabilities, the fires of creativity and industry, and the driving furnace that is required for rulership. So that all reads very sun, or at least solar adjacent to me, if we really want to split hairs. So the question I've kept coming back to whenever this issue has come up, or I've revisited myself, is that, is there truly a distinction between having the powers of the sun and fire and being a solar deity? For me, I think it is needlessly splitting hairs, but other people arrive at a different conclusion, and that's their business. Let's talk about his correspondences. For the solar system, we have the sun and the planet Mercury, celebrations of Letha, Lunasa, and Yule, the trees, the apple, birch, holly, and yew. The herb is gorse. He's associated with the grains of both wheat and barley corn. When people talk about corn at Lunasa time, they are, of course, referring to barley corn. The corn, as we know it today in the Americas, that was not really known to the Europeans until after the colonization. It was something that was introduced to them by the native tribes. But barley corn is native to Britain. Then we have the metals brass and gold, the crystals obsidian, sapphire, and topaz, the birds rooster, crane, eagle, and raven, the animals boar, dog, horse, lion, and lynx, magically fairies. And for invoking him for magical purposes, agriculture, especially the harvest, which, believe it or not, we are inching towards that season. It doesn't feel like it right now. It certainly won't feel like that through the month of July, but come August, harvest season does begin. And he's associated with beginnings, business, communication, confidence, conflict, how to deal with it specifically, decisions, healing, knowledge, light, magic generally, and solar, power, solar, prophecy, protection, rebirth, renewal, revenge, skills, warmth, and wisdom. And then for offerings, and this is based very much on my own personal experience, he likes his beer. He definitely likes whiskey, not necessarily cinnamon whiskey. I've given it to him before, and it wasn't badly received. It wasn't his favorite form of whiskey, so bear that in mind. Home baked goods, especially breads. Oh, going back to the whiskey, some people do try to conflate Lugh and Loki as being the same deity. Once I worked with them both, that was a possibility that I really dismissed from my mind, just because their energy was so different. When I invite them into circle, they feel completely different. I mean, there's just no mistaking them, at least not for me. But also when it comes to their preferences in whiskey, Loki is all about his cinnamon fireball whiskey. He is a very happy camper when that is his offering. Lou, again, it's fine, but he prefers non-cinnamon whiskey. So make of that what you will. But again, Lou also likes home baked goods, especially breads. He likes ham, fresh berries, fresh veggies. That all goes in with that theme of, the early harvest, the first fruits. He likes handicrafts that you made, poetry, song, things of that nature. He really seems to appreciate anything that you made with your own hands, or that you are presenting to him in a way that, you really put your own energy into it. Those have always gone over really, really well when I've worked with him. So if you decide to work with Lou this season, just bear this in mind and see what he likes. Perhaps he'll have different preferences when it comes to you, because each person's relationship with the deity, it is unique. Sometimes there are different. Sometimes things are just different. So. That is what I have for you on the god Lugh. And next month in Pagan Tales, we are going to be talking about deities that have to do with the seas and with water and with things of that nature, just because it's July. It's going to be blistering hot. It's deeply unpleasant. And I don't know about you, but the only thing I want to do is just either swim or float around gently on an inner tube and wait for the heat to pass. So this is my way of dealing with the heat of the season. About bringing in a little bit more water into it. So for July, we're going to talk about Maman, Maclear, Aphrodite, Poseidon, Coventina, and Niord. So I hope you'll be back for that and you'll enjoy these. But let me know what you thought about devoting June to all of these solar deities. Let me know what you think about including Lugh with that. Should I have, should I not have? What are your reasoning? I would love to hear from you. And yeah, I think that's it for today. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.